Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me, your host, Tommy Gilberts, as we sit down and take a behind-the-scenes look into Titan athletics with weekly interviews with coaches and athletes. This is Titan Tabletop. Hello, Titan fans and Titan family, and welcome inside the Ames Library once again for week 16 of Titan Table Talk here in the 2023-2024 school year. Basketball-heavy episode for you today, coming off a big week for both the men's and women's team. We'll be joined by a pair of Titan juniors, Harrison Wilmsen and Marko and Harrison, in just a moment. And then assistant coach for the women's team, Brian Ehresman, will be our second and final interview this afternoon. Gentlemen, good to see you. Congrats on a big win, continuing the CCIW win streak last week. Welcome.
Thank you.
So since we haven't had anyone from men's basketball on since before the break, I did want to kind of rewind a few weeks and ask you guys about the California trip in particular. We got a little bit of a preview from Ron and a couple of our other guests back in December. But games aside for now, just tell us what that experience was like.
Yeah, I think it was a great experience. I think the team got super close. We got to go sightseeing all throughout California, got some great meals. Rodeo Drive was cool, just walking around with everyone. Went to a Clippers game, which was super, super cool. Got to watch a good game, and I was like, we didn't win the games, but I think it helped us in the long run because we got so much closer. So that was my take on it.
I mean, it was like a big family vacation, really.
Yeah.
You know, going to California with all your best friends, you can't ask for, much better. And then the Clippers game, we got to go courtside, see NBA players. And then just hanging out in California where the sun's out, it's 70 degrees, and it's really beautiful state. So it was just a really fun experience to, go across the country with your best friends. So, really grateful for that experience.
We had to pick one favorite moment for each of you from the trip. I'm going to put you on the spot here right now. What would you say it would be? We can edit out all the thinking time if you need.
I think mine would be, was it the restaurant? Where was that? Santa Monica? Or
The one on the beach?
Yeah.
That was in Malibu.
Malibu, yeah. It was a restaurant on the beach, and it was at night. And, we went out to the beach after dinner, and the waves were just coming in, and we were just goofing off. Coaches were out there. We were just having a good time. So that was a memory that really sticks out to me as just, really fun being with your best friends and your coaches.
Yeah, probably for me, it was like the first full day we were there. We practiced early, and then we got back to the hotel, and we were all just sitting at the pool, getting some sun, messing around. It just felt good because, you don't really get that during basketball season.
Yeah, especially not when you're, in the middle of winter in central Illinois, and then you suddenly get those, that little bit of vacation, and all of a sudden, I remember my freshman year, thinking back a few years ago now, we going down for our training trip to Florida, you get out of the bus, every 3 hours or so, and it's about 8-10 degrees warmer every single time, and just, that feeling of getting a little bit of time away as a winter sport it's pretty nice.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And you got to really see, a couple of teams that could make some national noise at the end of the year, certainly, and that play very different styles. Obviously, a defensive slugfest against Cal Lutheran, the 58-52, and then a Redlands team under Coach Bridgeland that maybe plays a little bit different than most other squads you're going to see in the country, especially defensively. What did you take away from those games you feel like made you better prepared for a CCW slate to resume in January?
It was just the first game was just a grinded out game. It was tight the whole time, and then the Redlands game was just like you're not going to get that sort of pressure until you see them again, I'd say. So I think it just prepared us for teams that pressure us, and I think it helped us with not turning the ball over later on, like as we have been recently. So
yeah, those were big time games against big time programs. Cal Lu and Redlands were really disciplined teams, and it was a slugfest like versus Cal Lu. But, I think the importance of going to California and playing, two top 25 teams ultimately who are really well coached is it, has helped us put together this past 5-game win streak we've been on. And although we didn't get the win, it's more about, the growth opportunities for our team, to experience and build off of, to ultimately become, prepare us for the CCIW tourney and the tournament.
Yeah, and hard to believe now with that the Carroll game on Saturday already starting the second trip through the CCIW, already into the back half of the season. But kind of finished off that first half of the CCW slate Wednesday up at King Arena. Wheaton had a little bit of a rough year by their standards, certainly so far, but was coming off a 6-point home win against Elmhurst. You guys led 33-32 at the half, had an 11-point lead with 15 minutes to go, and the Thunder battled back. As they did against Elmhurst, as they've done quite a few times. You can't take the 4-14 record on its face, certainly with them. You know they're going to give you a battle. It came all the way down to, of course, Luke Yoder's game-winning layup with 3 seconds to play. So perhaps aside from the 30-plus minute rain delay for an indoor sport, any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I mean, you go into King Arena and you know it's going to be a good game despite the record. They are a good team. They hit a lot of threes against us, which was tough to battle. But I think, again, another grinded-out game where it felt good to win a close game. Chiavello throwing up that last shot was a little scary. It was kind of deja vu. But, just glad we got the win there. It was a great game, great atmosphere, except for the rain delay. But, yeah.
I mean, Wheaton's a great program, and, you know, we've been watching great basketball battles with them since we were freshmen. So, you know, we know, like, when you go up against the Wheaton Thunder, you know what you're going to have to, you know, put it all out on the floor to get, you know, the W. And that's what we did, and it was really satisfying, you know, to go to war with the team and, you know, have it be such a tight, tense game the whole time and, you know, come together, communicate, and, you know, finally take it out. And Luke Yoder saved the day. Big-time shot.
He did. And you talk about, you know, how they hit a lot of threes against you. Well, the flip side of that is Titans 52, Thunder 12 in the paint. And that's about as an extreme a separation as you're ever going to get in that statistic or anything like that. Harrison, a career-high 21 points for you. Marko doing a lot of the dirty work as usual, 6 rebounds. Harrison, 6 for you as well. And Hakeem Williams, 3 blocks and 5 steals on the defensive end. A big, not unusual necessarily, but a big day for him defensively as well. Just the confidence that you get from being able to repeatedly put the ball inside and score every single time. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, you know, feeling a little bit healthier this year in general, being able to play in a little bit longer stretches, go from, you know, if I'm remembering right, we could really barely get to the 20-minute mark for most of the second half of last season in terms of being on the floor, you know, shooting 41% from the field in general and just hoping you were healthy enough to be able to play. 61% from the floor this year. Once you're qualified, once you've made those 125 shots, that's 6th all-time in a single season at Illinois Wesleyan. And just how confident you feel stepping in there, stepping into the paint, and knowing that you've got the size and you've got the skill to beat just about anybody you're going up against right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. You know, confidence is huge in the game of basketball. And, you know, you play 4 years of college basketball for a reason, and it's to grow and mature as a player and build confidence. And, you know, each summer work on what you need to get better at. And I felt like everyone on our team has really done that. And, you know, we've hit the weight room in the summer, and we've worked on our game in the summer so that when we step on the floor, we can be challenged by our coaches to, you know, continuously improve. And, you know, I want to be able to do my job is to, you know, put the basketball in the hoop and at a high percentage. But, you know, I want to be able to do that without, you know, everyone else on our team. Like you said, Hakeem. Hakeem is just a dog on defense and offense. He's a stat stuffer, like Coach Rose says. And then Marko. I mean, Marko does all the dirty work you need someone to do. He's always on the floor getting rebounds. So, I mean, we have a great team, and, you know, I'm just lucky to be a part of it and, you know, contribute.
Yeah, and so much, especially on the offensive end, so much of rebounding is just it's the want to. And it's the being ready half a second before your opponent and getting the box out and all that. But, you know, as you've gotten to see more meaningful time on the floor over the last year and a half here, where do you feel like your game has grown the most?
I would just say, like, just the knowledge of basketball, just reading off, like, specific plays and all that. You know, it's easy. We get the ball into Harry, and then, I mean, it's a tough matchup. They have to double him, so it's easy to just kick out 3. We got some great shooters on our team. But, yeah, I would just say, like, I mean, obviously I try and go for all the rebounds that I can, but I feel like my mental game has really been stepped up. So.
Anything in particular you can credit to that, or just a little more experience and confidence?
I would just say, experience and confidence for sure. Yeah.
I would say a big thing for us juniors is, our freshman year we watched, one of the best teams to ever play at IWU. Sophomore year we were faced with, mountains of adversity, in all different aspects of life, not only on the basketball court, but then, we really came together and, grew. And then this year it's just, we know what we're capable of. It's just time to put it on the court and be fearless doing it and, not be, afraid of failure, afraid of anyone else who we're playing against, just knowing that we can go up against, the best of the best.
Yeah.
It helps that, we're all best friends outside of basketball. We hang out all the time. We're at Saga for 2 hours just talking. So that's also, the fun part. You're just playing with your best friends that you'll be friends with for the rest of your life. So
it never hurts.
Yeah.
So quickly looking ahead to this week, 7 p.m. once again against Wheaton, but here at the Shirk this time, and then Saturday a 7:15 tip-off following the women's Pink Zone game against Augustana. Any differences in how you're going to prepare for Wheaton this time, given that you've just seen them a few days ago?
I think work even harder. They have Chavello, who's is he a senior or a fifth year? And then they have Connor Braun. Their team, they made 17 threes against us. So, we need to, and a big thing for us and as we go on is going to be defense. Can defense win us games? And, that's what we need to work on. We can't, settle down now. We got to win out the rest of our games. So, just keep working, keep improving.
Yeah, totally agree. They got some young guys, too, that are playing pretty well. I just think guard the three better and just lock down on defense. I think, if we could do 52-12 or whatever is in the paint again, I think it'll be pretty good. But I'm guessing they're going to come with a different game plan now. But, yeah.
That is the kind of thing Mike Shower is sitting there circling on his box score going, this is not going to happen again 7 days from now. So, I think that's probably a fair assessment. But, yeah.
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Good luck this week. Once again, 7 p.m. tip-off this Wednesday against Wheaton, 7:15, or roughly half an hour after the end of the women's game. On Saturday, Titans 8-1, Elmhurst 7-2, Carthage 6-2, and the CCW right now should be a fun second half of the journey. Good luck, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
They say inside every challenge is an opportunity. At Illinois Wesleyan, you have the power to seize that opportunity. Discover the tools, the mentors, and the experiences to take on any challenge and shape not just who you are, but who you will become. The best college in Illinois for jobs is right here. Tap or click now to start your free application and break through at Illinois Wesleyan University.
Welcome back to episode 16 of Titan Table Talk, and we are joined by Brian Ehresman and sophomore Sawyer White from the women's basketball team. Thanks for joining us. Congrats on a big win on Saturday. How are we doing today?
Good. Yeah. On the high, I think, from the Carroll game. Yeah.
Yep. Still riding it a couple days later. I like it. Very nice. So before we get into a couple of very exciting, dramatic games last week, we're going to see if we can remember all the way back to the Hendricks trip before Christmas. Game aside, obviously a great road victory for the Titans, led pretty much wire to wire in that one. But I want to talk about St. Jude, and obviously a really meaningful and fun pit stop there on the way down to play a game. And any particular stories that you might want to share from that trip?
Yeah, I think that trip was just super fun for all of us. And when we spent the day in Memphis, we did a lot of stuff just besides St. Jude. We went to the National Civil Rights Museum, which I think is very impactful for our team and just for anyone, obviously. We also went to Graceland, which was super fun for all of us. Got to tour the mansion, see a bunch of things there. But St. Jude, it was just very eye-opening, and I think just seeing the campus itself and seeing what our donations and all the cards that we sold through Katie Knutsen's work was just really meaningful, and it was just awesome to be able to present that check.
Yeah, and we want to send a special thank you to all of you out there, because I knew there were quite a few who are typical watchers and listeners of Titan Table Talk who did purchase those discount cards through Katie Knudsen, through Minnie McCluskey, supporting St. Jude. So we want to thank you for your support. We want to thank all the businesses that donated their products, their classes, etc., for those as well. So it is a cause that's very near and dear to the Titan community, of course, and one of our two major partnerships along with Special Olympics. So very appreciative and glad you guys got to experience that, especially as a team. So fast forwarding now back to last week. Obviously a really big stretch, probably the biggest 3-game stretch in the CCW slate. Milliken at home last Wednesday, Carroll up in Waukesha on Saturday, and then heading right back down to Decatur on Wednesday to see the Big Blue once again. Obviously a disappointing finish to the ball game on Wednesday night against Milliken here at home. But I was standing there with Scott Sebring, Kurt Swearingen after the game, and we were trying to figure out when the last time was that we had a women's regular season game on a Wednesday in the middle of January with that atmosphere inside Shirk, and how incredible was that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching, my sister played for 4 years, so I went to all those games, and coaching here for 3 years. And for me personally, I'd never seen a Wednesday night game like that for us. So, the end was, I guess it was kind of crushing, right? Like, you reflect on it, but then now you can kind of take a step back and really appreciate, I think, the level of basketball that was played between both teams, the crowd and support that was there for both teams, and just the engagement from everyone around there's something greater than that game, I think, that of itself. I think of the direction that women's basketball is going nationally. You see that a lot with Caitlin Clark, Iowa, some of the publicity, the ratings that they're getting at that level. But I think people, from that it's trickling to, maybe smaller markets, less publicized events, but people locally are really buying into women's basketball. And I'm proud that we showed it as a really good product from both teams. So I think if it was maybe a fan going to a game for the first time, I think they're going to come back, and that's what we want. So did not go our way that night at the end, but I think overall, it was a big win for women's basketball and Wesleyan women's basketball.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to argue otherwise. I mean, I was sitting there in the first 5 minutes going, this is going to be an awesome next hour and a half, and just a high-tempo, fast-paced game, which is, probably what you expected going into that. Mm-hmm. But, they got out to a little bit of a lead. We came back on them. We had the same thing kind of in reverse at the very end of the game. Milliken finishing on the 19-6 run over those last 8 minutes or so. But, it's Ava 22 points, Kate 17, Lauren with the double-double, 15 and 11, Sawyer 15 points and 3 steals. And then Mallory Powers, 19 rebounds, and just in perfect position every time, and seemed to out-jump everyone around her by about a quarter of an inch, just enough, doing a lot of the dirty work down there in particular. And just the way that, with Ava and then especially Lauren being off the court from time to time in December and January, the way that I think the rest of the group, yourself definitely included in that, has had to step up and do some different things on the floor. To me, at least, as a little bit of an outsider, you sit there now and you watch these games and you see just the overwhelming confidence and the knowledge that Kate can defend another team's best player, and that you're going to have your hand in every passing lane that you can possibly find, and that you don't just have to count on. There were times last year I felt like you sometimes had to give the ball to Lauren and let her create, and that was that. Unless, Mallory or Kate, somebody else was feeling really good from downtown. And there's so many options right now on the floor as you look out there, both offensively and defensively, that you can count on. Is that kind of how you feel when you're out there? Yeah,
I think, obviously we never want to see anybody injured, Ava and Lauren especially. They're two of our best players. But I think them not being able to play because of injury gave a lot of opportunity to other people. Sarah Bali, Laura Malum, Taylor Tarver, Megan Moody, everyone kind of had to step up a little bit more. And I feel like everyone did a good job filling in for the missed rebounds or the missed scoring. If you want to look all the way back to Chicago, when I'm not usually a big rebounder, but I had 10 rebounds. Mallory's hitting down big threes, things like that. We're filling the little gaps. We do a really good job, and I feel like just even having Lauren and Ava back now is just going to set our team off in new heights, and we're excited.
Yeah, I will echo just a lot of the things that maybe last year these players that were in different roles wouldn't have had to assume some of that responsibility. That was forced upon them early, I think, with injury. And like Sawyer said, we never want anyone to be hurt. But you got to look at some of the positives that come out of that, mainly being positive that they're both back and they're healthy. But even better is that other players have now assumed some of the, not the, I'm trying to think of a better word, not like the lag or gap, but just we're more threat. Like Sawyer is a great threat. We want her to be aggressive against Milliken. She had 15 points. She did what she needed to. She got to the basket. Laura Malum, we know that she's one of our best defenders, and she steps up and can guard the other team's best player, perimeter or post. Sarah Bally knows that she is kind of that secondary defender to Kate Palmer. When she comes in, needs to guard the best player, needs to rebound. So, but they were forced into longer stretches to play, which ends up, it's going to help us now that we have our full team back, because you never know what's going to happen in a game. You never know foul trouble. You never know injury. You never know just if somebody's having an on or off game. It can go a lot of different ways, but really proud of how our team has stepped up. And we feel like we have, 6, 7, 8 starters. And that's really a blessing to have as a coach. It can be for hard decisions, but it's a good thing to have that problem. Yeah,
no question about it. And especially in a stretch like this, where you've got some games where you're not going to be able to rest anybody in the fourth quarter, back to back to back here, basically. Another one of those, of course, up in Waukesha on Saturday, a 72-68 win over Carroll. 18 points for Kate there, 17.7 boards for Lauren, 14 and 6 for Mallory. Not a great shooting day from beyond the arc, that's for sure, but up 42-28 on points in the paint, despite going 2 for 16 from long distance, so that helps. But another game where Titans faced a little bit of a significant deficit early on. It was 30-20 against Milliken before you crossed the half-court line and chucked up that three-pointer, and then 29-17 down on the road to Carroll in what can be, and I think was on Saturday, a pretty hostile environment. The ability to take a 12-point deficit right away and then boom, 11-1 run, up 40-36 at halftime, and Pioneers hung around, got back within a tipped 3-point attempt to tie it at the end. But speak to a little bit to that confidence you have to be able to overcome those early deficits and know that you're not out of a game.
Yeah, that was a great environment. I want to give credit to Carroll. I know they promoted the game a lot through radio, social media. So they had great student section. Their student section, I don't know if you watched the game, was right next to our bench. They rolled in bleachers. They were right there. They did their research. It was kind of funny. Before the game, we know the 4-minute drill, we allow our players to go into the stands and hug their family. And usually the coaches then will just kind of gather because we didn't have family there. We kind of did a group hug. And Chad, our volunteer assistant, was not there. He had to work that day. And so they saw us group hugging and they yelled, "Where's Chad?" And I'm like, these guys, wow. They looked it up. So it was kind of fun. And they did a good job. Our players did an excellent job of handling some of the personal, I don't want to say attacks, but the personal, they picked out players on the floor and kind of got on them a little bit. But it's good to be, we're going to play another tough environment on Wednesday. So that was a really good challenge on Saturday to kind of overcome that. We had some adversity with the start, like you said, and we didn't shoot well. So we did enough to win, gritty win. I think it was described in some of the headlines, and I would agree with that. We picked up the pace on our R&J. We sped them up a little bit. And like you said, we won the point in the paint battle, got in the lane, and did a pretty good job on our free throws. The last minute was a little scary, but overall, we finished. So really thrilled to come away with the win there. We hadn't done well there the last 2 years. And they have a really good team. They're ranked in the top 25. I think they have a good chance of getting an at-large if they don't win the conference tournament. They have a nice resume. So that's a really good win for us, no matter how you spin it. But yeah, just thrilled to play in that type of environment and to be challenged like that.
Is that a difficult gym to play in as a shooter on the road? It looks like it would be from watching it on the stream, but I've never been there. So
yeah, it's a little difficult, I'd say. I didn't take any 3-pointers in the Carroll game, so I can't really say for sure. But I remember last year just being a freshman going there, and you don't see anything behind the backboard for however many feet. It's a little difficult. But I think just kind of going back to what Coach B said about the environment, I was really proud of like how our bench, and especially when we were shooting free throws on that side, how well composed everybody was, for having whole football team there kind of heckling you. But yeah, I think we did a great job kind of handling that pressure, that added pressure. And I think it will definitely help us for Wednesday's game at Milliken.
Yeah. And switching a little bit to pressure of a different kind, talking about on the defensive end now, I really, want to talk to you a little bit about your mentality as a defender. And obviously it's one thing to look at a stat sheet and go 73 steals. It's another thing to watch you play every night within the context of trying to play team defense. And just, how do you especially get a feel for, okay, when can I be really aggressive? When can I try to jump out in a passing lane? And when do I need to reel it in just a little bit to make sure somebody doesn't drive past me on the back to get to the basket?
Yeah, I feel like that's something I've definitely had to work on this year. Sometimes, like, I want to go, and I want to go so bad that, like, I lose track of a player. And so it's kind of reeling it in a little bit and realizing that, like, who's a threat on the floor, if they're driving, if they're looking to pass. So a lot of it is personnel. And for instance, Pink game on Saturday, we know that their point guard is leading the assists in the country. And so maybe not so much of a scoring threat, but definitely looking for her teammates to pass the ball and for them to score. So kind of just learning how to play off some people. And then also I think a lot of it comes from just kind of reading eyes. I feel like that's one of the things, one of the reasons why soccer has really helped me is just kind of instinct. And so I would call myself kind of an instinct player, and I think that's really helped on the basketball court.
Yeah. And honestly, I never thought about that particular way, soccer transferring over to basketball, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. To talk about it like that, absolutely. So as we talked about earlier on, we try to do a little bit of, off the court stuff as well whenever we have the student athletes in here, just because so many people out there in the stands, know Sawyer White, the basketball player, and not anything necessarily beyond that. And so rewinding a couple of years to, when you're going through the college search process, when we're thinking about not necessarily even just where to go, but what do I want to do? What do I want to play? Take us through that thought process and how we landed here.
Yeah, so originally kind of freshman year, I was looking to just play soccer, and I was looking at Division II, Division I. And I was kind of the start of COVID come sophomore year, so I was reaching out to schools, but it was difficult to get a response back. And we started playing in more tournaments right after, summer of sophomore year, summer of junior year. And that's when Coach Smith reached out to me and Coach B. And I had a list of schools that I had already visited. And I remember I was sitting in the car with my mom one day, and I don't know where we were going, but she asked me if we were done with visits, and I was like, I just have this gut feeling that it's I need to visit Wesleyan. And so I took a day off of school. We came down here, I visited it, and I immediately knew when I met Coach Smith and Coach B at Shirk, and I got the full tour, it was immediate, this gut feeling is where I'm supposed to be. And so I think it's kind of an interesting question when people ask me that, because it was just you could say it was God feeling, just kind of putting that in my heart that it was meant to be.
Honestly, I think I can relate to that. I remember, so nobody cares about this. This is too long ago now, but whatever. Just
I care, Tommy.
Share.
We care.
Share. I remember I was sitting on my bed. It was the summer going into my senior year. I was looking at some college book. I don't know what it was, but my dad pokes his head into my room and goes, based on what you're looking at and what you want, I really think you should look at Illinois Wesleyan. And I was just kind of okay, sure. And then visited in July, loved it, and then came back when students were on campus. It was the weekend going into Halloween, and I kind of knew from then on. It was it felt like home.
Yeah.
And it's that feeling of you don't necessarily know what you're walking into when you walk on campus, and then when you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. What was that transition like this year for you, going from soccer into basketball season a little bit earlier than last year?
Yeah, so obviously we didn't do super well in soccer like we did the year prior.
Graduate 2 classes at the same time.
Yeah,
That's going to happen sometimes.
And
Yeah.
we lost our All-American, Sue, and multiple All-Conference players, and so it was just very different lineup and subbing and things like that. So it was a little bit of a rebuilding year, I think, and obviously we didn't make it very far. We played Carroll in the quarterfinal and ended up losing 3-0. And so that was actually the day before the ISU game. So I was kind of just joking around with Brian and Coach Smith about like, oh, I'm ready to go. Like, put me in ISU. But obviously take a week off to kind of get my bearings a little bit. But the transition was a lot easier this year. I think also considering that I'm now a sophomore and I'm not a freshman. And so it's a lot easier to come in and know the R&J, know the plays, know my teammates, and the coaches and all of my friends and teammates made that transition super easy for me again this year. So it's been a lot more fun coming earlier because I didn't miss the Hope tournament and I didn't miss us playing Whitewater. Cornell tournament was new, but I didn't miss some of those that I missed the year prior. So it's been a good experience.
Yeah, awesome. Well, coming up this week, of course, on the road at Milliken, as I already mentioned, 7 p.m. tip-off on Wednesday. If you're feeling ambitious, take that 45-minute drive down 51, and then Titans are back home on Saturday, of course, for the annual Pink Zone game. Any particular special events or anything that you want to give us a little preview of, or kind of the usual going on that Saturday?
I think it's going to be, it's just a really meaningful event, always just raising money for a cause like that. And with Coach Smith, as you know, I think this is going to be year 13 that she is cancer-free in remission. So that's always going to be a huge thing, regardless of, Mindy, I know, is planning, a lot of the events. So we put all our trust in Mindy for event planning. So I'm not concerned about that. It's going to be a great event, great cause, great game. So that's all you really need to know about it, right?
Exactly. 5 p.m. tip-off on Saturday. Get here nice and early. Catch the Titans against Augustana. Good luck this weekend, both of you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tommy.